Right. Forgot to say the magic word, dog. Uh, yeah, it is.
In all fairness, force Russia and China together. And if you're a history student, the first thing you learn is you cannot let Russia and China align. But then they also got, if you take a look, Iran, and they have North Korea. That's, they call it the axis of evil. In the old days, you had the axis of evil. Here we have a modern day axis of evil. These are powerful countries, very heavy nuclear, which is the biggest threat.
Yeah.
The biggest threat is not global warming, where the ocean's going to rise one eighth of an inch over the next 400 years. And you'll have more oceanfront property, right? The biggest threat is not that. The biggest threat is nuclear warming, because we have 5 countries
Well,
now that
yeah.
have significant nuclear power, and we have to not allow anything to happen with stupid people like Biden. Biden did something with Russia. There was no chance of him ever going in. And when I left, and then after I left, they started forming big armies on the border with Ukraine, right? And I looked at that, and I thought he was doing that because Putin's a good negotiator. I thought he was doing that to negotiate. But then Biden started saying such stupid things. For instance, he said that uh, it can be a NATO country. Now, Russia, for as long as there's been NATO, has said we're never going to agree to that, and we go right up front and say that. And we did things and said things through this president with a low IQ, very low IQ. He had a low IQ 30 years ago, by the way, but now he might not even have a IQ at all. There's nothing on the board that goes this low. He said things that were so stupid that that war would have been that war had zero chance of happening if I were there. Zero chance. He was saying everything
Yeah.
the opposite. Everything the opposite. And it's so sad because many more people have been killed in Ukraine than you read about. You don't read about how bloody it is and how disaster.
Sure.
Hey, look, just in the two armies, you lost 500,000 people, and
Yeah.
Ukraine's having a hard time. Ukraine, I don't know if you saw
Yeah.
the article recently, and it's true. You don't hear the true story, but if you think about it, uh, Russia's gone. Russia defeated Germany with us, and they defeated Napoleon. They've been around a long time. They're a big fighting force,
Yeah. Sure.
and it's
Of course.
very unfair. And Ukraine now doesn't have enough men. They're now using young men and very old men to fight, and we're in a very bad position. And I'm not going to blame exclusively, but I can tell you, I could have stopped that, and a smart president could have stopped that. It wouldn't have happened. But we had
Yeah.
a man that actually made it. It made it more prevalent. It was so bad. The words that he was using, the stupid threats coming from a stupid face that he was using. I said, this guy's going to cause us a war. He's going to cause us. And let me tell you,
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
can lead to World War III. That can lead to World War III. The Middle East can lead to. We have numerous places that could end up in a
Yeah.
World War III right now for no reason
No,
whatsoever.
I think you're right. I think people underrate the risk of World War III, and it's just when you're looking at the risk of global thermonuclear warfare, it's game over for humanity, and that's it's something that people have, I think, after the end of the Cold War, people have become complacent about, but they actually have forgotten that there are currently a lot of nuclear missiles that have targeting parameters for the United States from other
100%.
countries.
And one of the things
And
we're going to do is
it's
we're going to
yeah,
build an Iron Dome over us. Israel has it. We're going to have the best Iron Dome in the world. We need it, and we're going to make it all in the United States. But we're going to have protection, because it just takes one maniac to start something. We're going to have protection, and we're going to have. Why shouldn't we have an Iron Dome? Israel has one. Some other places
yeah,
have one that nobody even knows about, frankly. But Israel has it. We're going to have an Iron Dome. But with all of that being said, to me that's so important, the most important. But with all of that being said, the election's coming up, and the people want to hear about the economy and the fact that they
absolutely true.
can't buy groceries because they don't have enough money to buy groceries. The inflation has killed them. Food prices are up 50, 60, even 100% in some cases. And this stupid administration allowed this to happen, and it's a shame. And that's the thing that people most care about, in my opinion. They care about the border a lot, and we discuss the border at great length. It's nice to have a
Yeah, yeah.
forum like this where I can discuss something at length. And by the way, you think Biden could do this interview? Do you think that Kamala could do this interview? They would take a pass on
No,
you.
they could not.
So they don't need Elon. They don't need Elon screaming out questions. It's it's pretty sad when you think that somebody that does this for a living can't answer a question or is afraid to do an interview. And in her case, with a very friendly interview, she's got all friendly interviewers. It's pretty sad.
Yes,
But the
absolutely.
big thing now is the
Well,
economy, Elon.
yeah,
And as much as
yeah,
I mean, I view nuclear as the single most important thing, but a lot of people don't. A lot of people don't understand that. But it doesn't have to. If I understand it, that's all you need. Because if I was president, you're not going to have that kind of a problem. But the thing that they really is making them angry is what Kamala and Biden have allowed to happen to the economy. It's a disaster with inflation. The inflation, it
yeah,
doesn't matter what you make. The inflation is eating you alive. If you're a worker or if you're just a middle income person, you can't afford. 4 years ago, 5 years ago, people were saving a lot of money. Today, they're using
yeah.
all their money and borrowing money just to live. It's a horrible thing
Right.
that's happening, and we'll end that
Well, I think
quickly.
a lot of yeah, a lot of people just don't understand where inflation comes from. Inflation comes from government overspending because the checks never bounce when it's written by the government. So if the government spends far more than it brings in, that increases the money supply, and if the money supply increases faster than the rate of goods and services,
That's right.
that's inflation. Um, so really, we need to have we need to reduce our government spending, and we need to re-examine. I think we need like a government efficiency commission to say like, hey, where are we spending money that's sensible? Where is it not
Right.
sensible? And we need to live within our means. We're currently adding, I think, $1 trillion to the deficit every roughly
Right.
every 100 days.
That's right.
And the interest payments on the national debt have now exceed the defense budget. It's on the order of $1 trillion,
It's interest.
and it keeps
Yeah, I
growing.
rebuilt our military, largely rebuilt our military, did a great job on it, which was so important. We had jets, we had fighters that were, and bombers that were 70 years old. And we did a great job in that. Then by the way, then we gave 85 billion of it back to Afghanistan, if you can believe it. We gave them 85 billion. They're one of the largest sellers
Yeah,
of military equipment in the world. They're selling what we gave them. That was one of the most embarrassing days in the history of our country. But if you think about, let's go back to the economy. We have to bring energy
yeah,
prices down. Energy started at the price of gasoline. Now your cars don't require too much gasoline, so you have a good, and you do make a great product. I have to say, I have to be honest with you.
thank
That
you.
doesn't mean everybody should have an electric car, but these are minor details. But your product is incredible. But the
Thank you.
gasoline, Elon, is the cost of energy. Not only gasoline, it's the cost of heating your house and cooling your house. That has
Sure.
to come down. It's gone up 100%, 150, and 200%, and that has to come down. When that comes down, and we're going to
Yeah,
drill, baby, drill. They stopped drilling, and then they went back to drilling because they went back to the Trump policy. But if they won the day after they get into office, we're going to this country will go out of business because they're going to go to an energy policy that's not sustainable. Wind and different things, you're not going to have anything.
yeah,
And I know you're a big fan of the AI, and I have to say
yeah,
that AI, and this is shocking to me, but AI requires twice the energy that the country already produces for everything. So you're going to have to build. We're going to have to build a lot of energy if our country will be competitive with China, because that's our primary competitor for this on the AI. You're
sure.
going to need a lot of
Well, I mean,
electricity. You're going to need tremendous
yeah,
electricity, like almost double what we produce now for the whole country, if you can believe it.
sure. Well, just going, back to this, like this basic thing, which that people try to make it sound complicated, but it's not. But inflation is caused by government
Right.
overspending. Would you agree that we need to take a look at government
Yes.
spending and have
Trump
perhaps
is
a government
absolutely
efficiency
bulldozing
commission
him, dude.
that tries to make the spending sensible, and so the country lives within its means, just like a
The
person does.
waste is incredible, and nobody
It is.
negotiates prices. You used to have a lot of people making jets, and you end up with two companies, and they'll probably try and merge at some point. I mean, I went through it like Air Force, just a thing like Air Force One. One of the first documents they asked me to sign, a general walks in, sir, would you please sign this document? And what is it? Air Force One. That's with Boeing, which is basically two planes, two 747s, and the price was
Yeah.
$5.7 billion for two planes. Now,
Wow.
they're highly sophisticated.
That's insane.
They're even nicer than your plane, okay? But much more sophisticated. They're very. I won't say what's on it, but they got a lot of stuff on it. Anyway, but it's 5.7.
Sure. That's a crazy
It's
number.
a crazy number, but I said, I'm not going to pay 5.7. I'm not going to do it. I said, who made the deal? Obama and his people. I said, well, then I know the deal's no good. I'm not going to do it. And over a course of about 4 weeks, by my saying I'm not going to do it, I got the price reduced by $1.6 billion for the exact same plane, other than we had a nicer paint job, if you want to know the truth. But for the exact same plane, I saved one. And I said to Boeing, man, you guys must make a lot of money if you can reduce the price by that. But now what I do hear is that they're going back to the Biden administration and wanting big cost overruns, because they see these dopey suckers in there, and they'll end up getting some of the money back. But I shaved it by $1.6 billion for the exact same plane, and you can now take that and multiply that out times thousands of other
Exactly.
items.
Multiply it by
Yeah,
a
the
zillion,
numbers are
and yeah.
astronomical. I agree with you.
Well, I mean, if so, I think it would be great to just have a government efficiency commission that takes a look at these things, and just ensures that the taxpayer money, the taxpayers' hard-earned money, is spent in a good way. I'd be happy to help out on such a commission.
I'd love
if it were formed.
Well, you're the greatest cutter. I mean, I look at what you do. You walk in and you just say, you want to quit? They go on strike. I won't mention the name of the company, but they go on strike, and you say, that's okay. You're all gone. You're all gone. So every one of you is gone, and you are the greatest. You would be very good. Oh, you would love it. But, if you look at Argentina.
Well, I'd be happy to help
By the way,
out.
congratulations.
Yeah.
I just looked at the number of people that are listening to you and I chat. We'll call it a chat. But
Yeah.
congratulations. This is very good. I mean, it's great. And you're an interesting character. The new head of a place called Argentina, and he's a big,
Malay's awesome.
he's great, and
Yeah.
he's a big MAGA fan. You know that he ran on MAGA, and he took it to an extreme too. He ran on MAGA, and I hear he's doing really a terrific job. It's called Make Argentina Great Again. It worked out perfectly. He came in, he bought a lot of hats, he brought over, but he's doing a big job. He really cut. And I'm hearing
Yeah.
they're starting to do pretty well. Inflation's getting down. They had like
Yes,
2,000%.
exactly.
They had inflation like not normal inflation. They had the real deal. But we're going to
Yeah.
have that pretty soon. We have. I think we
Yeah.
have the worst inflation we've had in 100 years. They say it's 48 years. I don't believe it. I think we have the worst. They
Yeah.
don't include a lot of the items that should be included.
Yeah. Well, it's just from government overspending, and not spending taxpayer money
Yeah.
Effectively, and having just like so many departments, you can't even name them all. And what Malay is doing, is he's cutting government spending. He's simplifying things. He's having putting in regulations that make sense, and we're Argentina overnight is experiencing a giant improvement
That's right.
in prosperity. But it's also a lesson for the United States, which is that Argentina used to be one of the most prosperous countries in the world. Um, in the like in the 30s, 40s, and because of bad government policy, it ruined the country. And if you take Venezuela, for example, Venezuela should be incredibly prosperous. They have phenomenal reserves of everything, oil, everything, and it should be prosperous. But if the government's wrong, it impoverishes the people. And so I think we should not be complacent in the United States in thinking that and taking our prosperity for granted, because if with bad government policy, we can run the country into the ground. And that's just something people should bear in mind. Don't take prosperity for granted.
Well, think of education. So we're ranked at the bottom of every list of the top 40. We're ranked number 40, number 38. Uh, Norway, Switzerland. Switzerland, Sweden, different countries are ranked good. Actually, China's pretty close to the top. They're a top 6 or 7, but we're ranked at the bottom, almost at the bottom, 38, 39, 40. In other words, horrible. And yet we spend more per pupil than any other country in the world. So we spend more. And what I'm going to do, one of the first acts, and this is where I need an Elon Musk. I need somebody that has a lot of strength and courage and smarts. I want to close up Department of Education, move education back to the states,
Yeah.
where states like Iowa, where states like Idaho, not every state will do great because states that basically aren't doing good now. You look at Gavin Newsom, the governor of California. He he's terrible. He does a terrible job. So he's not going to do great with education. But of the
Yeah.
50, I would bet that 35 would do great, and 15
Yeah.
of them, or 20 of them will be as good as Norway. Norway is considered great. Uh, you can name them. I mean, just they're so good. Some of
Yeah.
these countries are so good. But if you go into some of these really well-run states, we have states that don't know what debt is. We have states that have low taxes, no debt, everybody working. They're really well run,
Sure.
and maybe they have certain advantages in terms of location, in terms of the land or the sun, and the water and the whole thing. There are a lot of advantages that some people have. But if you moved education back to the 50, you'll have some that won't do well, they'll actually be forced to do better because it'll be a pretty bad situation. But,
Yeah.
but if you think
Well,
about it,
yeah.
you'll have some
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
these states. I'll bet you'd have 30, 35 states. It'll be much better. And you know what it'll cost? Less than
Yeah.
half what it is in Washington. And
Yeah.
these people don't care
Well,
about the
yeah.
students in these, faraway states. And
Well,
it'd be unbelievable.
yeah. I think you're making a good point in that if the states have to if each state has to compete against other states, then people will
That's
naturally
right.
move to states where it's better.
Well, like
Um,
California, as we said, it's a badly run state. I could go through. I got so many friends that are in those states, even if they're Democrats. I hate to mention certain states, but Illinois is badly run with Pritzker. He's a real loser. But
yeah.
but some of these places are just badly run. But mention certain states, but Illinois is badly run with Pritzker. He's a real loser. But
Yeah.
but some of these places are just badly run. But it's almost going to force them to run better, and they won't do a good at initially. But you're not going to do worse than you're doing right now. And I would say that
Yeah.
the cost you would cut your cost by 50 or 60%. And you'd have a little
Yeah. Yeah.
monitor. You want to make sure they're teaching English as an example. Give us a
Yeah.
little English, right?
Sure. Yeah.
Right?
No, but I mean, to what some of these governors are doing so badly. I mean, they got so many people moving out of their state. They should get U-Haul Salesman of the Year award because they're driving so much U-Haul
It's
sales.
actually
It's just
amazing.
people moving out.
Isn't it amazing to you as a businessman that they can even survive? Like Illinois, so many people are leaving, and you wonder, how do they survive? I mean, how do they survive? Uh, I saw where you left California and you moved to Texas. Texas does a great job. But, I
Yeah.
mean, I just wonder, how do these states survive when big businesses, a big oil company just left California, as you know, and they moved to Texas. How do these big states survive when they lose so many businesses and their taxes are already really high? The taxes are among the highest
Yeah.
taxes. you almost wonder how do they continue on? And in many cases, the governors don't do a good job in their crime-ridden places. You wonder how do they continue to just go on? It's
Well,
not a good
I think there's.
situation.
I mean, I think the only thing that's going to force some of these states to change is if they risk bankruptcy and they're not getting bailed out by the federal
Right,
government.
right. Well,
That's
you're
the
going to
only thing
have
that's going
that.
to get them to change.
You remember the
Yeah,
area in California where they had that, where I guess somebody had sticky fingers and they stole a lot of money, and they went into a form of chapter, and it was very
yeah,
nasty
yeah.
for a period of time. But now it's probably the most popular place in all of California. So at some point, something like that may have to happen. But the problem is, you can't penalize people that loan money to the state when you have incompetent people like a Pritzker. Look, the family didn't want him in the family business, and then he ends up being governor of Illinois. So what is he going to be? Is he going to be a great governor? And you have people. I could name every one of them. I got to know every one of
Yep.
these, and some are very good, and some are just horrible.
Well, I think that I mean the larger point here, too, as you're saying, like a lot of people are concerned about the economy, a lot of people are concerned about inflation, and inflation is effectively a tax on people that that save money,
Yeah,
and for people that are working day to day, it's just a form of taxation, and if we can solve the government spending problem, we'll solve the inflation problem, which means people will have a better standard of living,
yeah.
and that's a really big
Well, the
deal.
people that got hurt
Um,
worst are the people that did it the way they were taught to do it all through, their younger life and their young life and their whole life. The people that saved money and then they got no interest on their money and inflation destroyed them. And frankly, they were almost better off if they didn't do anything like that. I mean, those people have been absolutely decimated, and we're going to bring those people back and help those people. We've got to get the prices down. When I look at bacon costing 4 or 5 times more than it did a few years
sure.
ago, when you look at some of the food products in grocery stores, people go, they can't believe it. They used to be able to buy a whole cart, and today, a lot of people just don't have the money. They go in and they can't buy anything. They look at
Yeah,
it's sticker
I
shock.
think
They call it
yeah.
sticker shock, right?
I think it really just comes, like I said, I think it just comes down to really, I guess, two things, which is that if you solve government overspending, you solve inflation, which improves living
Right.
standards of the average person, and then if you deregulate, like have sensible regulations, so because a lot of the regulations are nonsensical and cause the cost to be extreme for no reason, but unless you've got effective deregulation. Like Reagan did a great job on deregulation in the 80s, but it's been 40 years since we had at
That's right.
anyone really. I mean, during your administration, we made some progress, but I think uh, there's opportunity to make, I think, radical progress with sensible regulation.
Yeah.
And
Well,
if
Elon, we
those two things, yeah, those are the big
yeah
deals.
we set a record. We did more deregulation and more uh, restrictions on all of the different businesses than any other president. Remember I had the rule for everyone we put in, you have to get rid of 10 or 12. And we did
Yeah,
radical cuts on all of that, and a lot of that's being put back by this administration. And we did radical cuts on things that weren't necessary. But we were all set. We had the best economy ever, maybe in the world. And then what happened is COVID came in, and we had to focus on that, and nobody knew what it was. And I always say I got good marks on economy, good marks on military. We knocked out ISIS. We did so many different things. We rebuilt. But, I never got the credit that we really deserved on what we did with COVID. We never got the credit. But if had that not happened, a gift from China, from Wuhan, came in from Wuhan, the Wuhan labs, and I always said it, and it turned out to be right. But
yeah,
had that not happened, we were set to start reducing debt. We were going to reduce taxes further. I gave the largest tax cuts, and we were going to reduce taxes still further for middle income people, not only businesses. But we did it for
sure,
businesses because they're the ones that's why we had the great job numbers. But we were set to really start reducing debt. And, we're sitting on the biggest pile of liquid gold anywhere in the world, bigger than Saudi Arabia, bigger than Russia. And we were going to drill, and we were going to make so much money. We were going to supply Europe with oil. I had stopped the Russian pipeline, and we were going to supply them with oil and gas. We were going to we were going to make a fortune, and then the COVID came in, and we had to we really had to divert. Then what happened is when they came in, we kept a lot of businesses alive. If I didn't do what we did, we would have had a 1929 type depression. But the problem is when Biden came in, he got trillions of dollars and just started spending it stupidly. You didn't need it anymore. We got over that bad period where it was everybody was dying and feeling.
Yeah, what? I have it muted, but what? What? But did you ever get your refund? Mm.
It was just not a good period.
Is that
Interestingly,
the plane you're building?
during his administration, many more people died during his
Why the fuck
administration
is
of
that so
COVID
expensive, dude?
than during
That's
my
the price of a
administration,
fucking
and we really got
brand
the
new
brunt of
game.
it. But people don't realize more people died during his administration than ours. But it
Yeah,
diverted us
fucking
from
right,
doing what
dude.
I wanted to do. But we had the greatest for almost 3 years. We had the
Yeah.
great, and you know that probably better than anybody. So many of your friends said to me, the best years we've ever had in business were during the Trump years, and also said that uh, African American, Hispanic American were so incredible. They were having the best Asian American women, men, young people without a diploma, young people that graduated from the best colleges, from MIT, from the Wharton School, from all of the great colleges, Harvard. They were doing better, and people without a diploma were doing better, and everybody was happy. And then COVID came, and
Sure.
we had the problem is they spent trillions and trillions of dollars. They wasted. They shouldn't have taken any money, and we wouldn't be having inflation right now, which is killing our country.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and absolutely. And I mean, I should probably say something about like maybe my views on climate change
Yeah.
and oil and gas, because I think I'm probably different from what most people would assume, because my views are actually pretty, I think, moderate in this regard, which is that I don't think we should vilify the oil and gas industry and the people that have worked very hard in those industries to provide the necessary energy to support the economy. And if we were to stop using oil and gas right now, we would all be starving, and the economy would collapse. So I don't think it's right to sort of vilify the oil and gas industry, and the world has a certain demand for oil and gas, and it's probably better if the United States provides that than some other countries,
Sure.
and it would help with prosperity in the U.S. And at the same time, obviously, my view is like we do over time want to move to a sustainable energy economy, because eventually you do run out of. I mean, you run out of oil and gas. It's not there. It's not infinite. Um, and there is some risk. I think the risk is not as high as you know a lot of people say it is with respect to global warming. But I think if you just keep increasing the parts per million in the atmosphere long enough, eventually it actually simply gets uncomfortable to breathe. People don't realize this. If you go past 1,000 parts per million of CO2, you start getting headaches and nausea. And so we're now in the sort of 400 range. We're adding, I think, about roughly 2 parts per million per year. So I mean, it still gives us. So what it means is like we still have quite a bit of time, but so there's not like we don't need to rush, and we don't need to like stop farmers from farming, or you know uh, prevent people from having steaks or
Right.
basic stuff
Right.
like that. Like you leave the farmers alone.
I agree.
In
How
my opinion.
crazy is that? Where
I mean,
you have farmers that are not allowed to farm anymore and have to get rid of their cattle, and the whole world is
yeah,
a
that's
little
silly.
crazy. But it's largely taken its lead from us. I do say though, I've heard in terms of the fossil fuel, because even to create your electric car and create the electricity needed for the electric car. Fossil fuel is what really creates that at the generating plants. And, so you sort of can't get away from it at this moment. I mean, someday you might be able to, but I do hear we have anywhere from 100 to 500 years left. Much of it hasn't even been found yet.
Yeah.
but there are tremendous, like Anwar. I got Anwar in Alaska approved. Ronald Reagan couldn't do it. Nobody could do it. Everybody tried. Nobody could do it. I got it approved. The first thing that Biden did was unimprove to get rid of it. He ended
Yeah.
it. His uh, his secretary went in and she ended it. And what a disgrace. That's Anwar. That's bigger, or they think it could be bigger than Saudi Arabia in Alaska. Could be bigger than Saudi Arabia. But they went in and they terminated it. And I'll get it going very quickly because not only is it big for Alaska, I mean, you talk about economic development, that for the United States, I mean, that is, they say bigger than Saudi Arabia or the same size, and pure,
Yeah.
really good stuff. And, they end it. So I think we have, you know, perhaps hundreds of years left. Nobody really knows. But during that
Yeah.
during that
I mean,
time, something
my
will
estimate.
come around that will be
Yeah.
very good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, and my estimate would be, a little more uh, aggressive than that, but it's not the sort of like we're all going to die in 5 years
If you're talking about
stuff.
me, you're
That's
wrong.
obviously
This is
BS.
going phenomenal. This is a
But
massive win
I mean,
for
my view is like
everybody.
if you just look at sort of the parts per million that increments every year, you get sort of 2 or 3 parts per million every year of CO2. Uh, I mean, I think some of that it's problematic if it accelerates, if you start going from 2 or 3
Right.
to say 5, and then there may be some situations where you get just a step change increase in the CO2. Um, and I think we don't want to get too close to 1,000 ppm because like that's actually makes it uncomfortable to breathe. Like just existing in 1,000 ppm CO2 is uncomfortable. That's like that's considered like an industrial hazard.
Right.
Just so it's that's actually you start getting headaches and stuff. So it's even without global warming, it's not comfortable to live. So we don't want to get too close to that. But I mean, I think we've got. I think we want to just move over and like, and if I don't know, 50 to 100 years.
The word global warming, because not every place is warming. Some places are going the opposite direction.
And so you get the solar power, combine that with yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, and my estimate would be, a little more uh, aggressive than that, but it's not the sort of like we're all going to die in 5 years
If you're talking about
stuff.
me, you're
That's
wrong.
obviously
This is
BS.
going phenomenal. This is a
But
massive win
I mean,
for
my view is like
everybody.
if you just look at sort of the parts per million that increments every year, you get sort of 2 or 3 parts per million every year of CO2. Uh, I mean, I think some of that it's problematic if it accelerates, if you start going from 2 or 3
Right.
to say 5, and then there may be some situations where you get just a step change increase in the CO2. Um, and I think we don't want to get too close to 1,000 ppm because like that's actually makes it uncomfortable to breathe. Like just existing in 1,000 ppm CO2 is uncomfortable. That's like that's considered like an industrial hazard.
Right.
Just so it's that's actually you start getting headaches and stuff. So it's even without global warming, it's not comfortable to live. So we don't want to get too close to that. But I mean, I think we've got. I think we want to just move over and like, and if I don't know, 50 to 100 years from now, we're I don't know, mostly sustainable. I think that'll probably be okay. Um, so it's not like the house is on fire immediately, but I think it is something we need to move towards. And on on balance, it's probably better to move there faster than slower. But like I said, without vilifying the oil and gas industry, and without causing hardship in the short term, I think this can be done. Um, without but people can still have a stake, and they can still drive gasoline
Sure.
cars, and it's okay. It's like it's not. I don't think we should vilify people for it, but I think we should just generally lean in the direction of sustainability, and I actually think solar is going to be a majority of Earth's energy generation in the future, and it's certainly trending that way.
Mhm.
And so you get the solar power, combine that with batteries, so because obviously the sun doesn't shine at night, and then you use that to charge the electric cars, and you have a long-term sustainable solution. And that's what Tesla's trying to move things towards, and I think we've made a lot of progress in that regard. But when you look at our cars, we don't believe that environmentalism, that caring about the environment should mean that you have to suffer. So we make sure that our cars are beautiful, that they drive well, that they're fast, they're sexy. I mean, they're cool. In fact, literally, I mean, this sexy joke, Model S, Model 3, Model X, and Y spells out sexy. It's probably the most expensive joke out there. But I don't know. I like cheesy humor, So, but I'm a big fan of, like, let's have an inspiring future, and
Yeah.
let's work towards a better future, and we can do so without demonizing
Right.
people.
I'm okay. It's very interesting. You use the word global warming, and today they use the word climate change because you have some places that go up, and so they were getting themselves in a little trouble with the word global warming because not every place is warming. Some places are going the opposite direction. But I'm sort of waiting for you to come up with solar panels on the roofs of your cars and on the trunks of the cars, and it just seems like something that at some point you will come up with. I'm sure you'll be the first, but it would seem that a solar panel on the roofs, on flat surfaces, on certain surfaces might be good.
Yeah.
At least in certain areas of the country where you have the world,
Sure.
where you have the sun. But I would think, and I have no idea because that's not my world, but I would think that this would be something that would be interesting. But the one thing that I don't understand is that people talk about global warming or they talk about climate change, but they never talk about nuclear warming. And to me,
Sure.
that's an immediate problem because you have, as I said, 5 countries where you have major nuclear, and probably some others are getting there, and that's very dangerous. That's where you need a strong American president because you don't want to have this proliferation. But you have 5 countries and getting more. China
We
is
have the
much
three
less
bases,
than us right now,
Darius.
but they're
Yeah,
going to catch us sooner than
It's
people
gonna
think. They're
be a
way lower.
great match.
Russia
I
and
can see
us
it
are
coming.
number one, and I mean, we're sort of tied. And China is far behind, but they're developing at a level that you're not surprised to hear very fast. They'll end up catching up, maybe even
Yeah.
surpassing. But to me, the biggest
Yeah.
problem is not climate change. It's not, and everything's a problem, but it's degrees. To me, the big problem is the nuclear power. The power of nuclear is so great. And when I talk
Yeah.
about
Nuclear power is underrated. It's
I'll
awesome.
prevent World War
Yeah.
III, I will. But the truth
Elon
is
tries
that
to say something.
you have
Trump
to
just
because
keeps
this is no
plowing
longer army
through.
tanks going back and forth and shooting at each other. This is
Yeah.
a level of destruction and power that nobody's ever seen before.
Yeah, and actually, there's the bad side of nuclear, which is nuclear war, very bad side. But there's also, I think, nuclear electricity generation
Absolutely.
is underrated.
You're right.
And it's actually, people have this fear of nuclear electricity generation, but it's actually one of the safest forms
No, so
of
you can place like
electricity generation.
defensive
It's
carry.
just a huge
If it's too
misunderstanding. And if you look at the injuries and deaths, caused by, say, I mean, I'm not going to try to pick on coal mining, but just any kind of mining operation, and there's a certain number of injuries and deaths per year. And you compare that to nuclear. Nuclear is actually way better. So it's underrated as an electricity source, and I think it's something that's worth reconsidering. But there's so much regulation that people can't get it done. So that
Maybe they'll have
sort
to
of
change the
have
name.
it,
The name is just, it's a rough name. There are some areas
it's rough
like when
name.
you see what happened.
Good bad
Right.
branding. The
We'll have to
branding's rough.
rebrand it. We'll have to give it a good name. We'll name it after you or something. No, it has a branding problem. When you see what happened.
It doesn't have a branding problem.
When you see what happened in Japan, where they say you won't be able to go on the land for about 3,000 years. Did you ever see that? And in Russia, where they had the problem, where they, there's a lot of bad things happen, and
As soon as
they
I
have
saw
a
the
problem. And
50
they say
supplies, I
that
was like, oh, Gary,
in
Gary.
2,000
Then he
years,
said
people
no,
will start
and
to
then he bailed.
occupy the land
I
again.
saw the notes down
You realize
below
it's pretty
and
bad.
No,
But
that's not true.
but there's,
Dr.
you're right
no,
about it.
it's actually not that bad. So, like,
That's kidding. You're
people were asking me in California, are we worried about like a nuclear cloud coming from Japan? I'm like, no, that's crazy. It's actually it's not even dangerous in Fukushima. I actually flew there and ate locally grown vegetables on TV to prove it.
Let's try to place OP on
And I donated a solar water solar power system for a water treatment plant. And
yeah, but you haven't been feeling so well lately, and I'm worried about it.
No, but I mean,
I'm only kidding.
It's fine, It's like Hiroshima and Nagasaki were bombed, but now they're like full cities again. So
Right,
it's
well,
really not something that
That's right.
So it's not as scary as people think, basically.
Yeah.
But let's see. I mean, are there some other topics we should touch on? Like lawfare. I think we need to be concerned about
What they've done to this country.
obviously.
Yeah.
Fight a little bit.
Yeah.
Well, we just won the big case in Florida. This was the Biden administration did something that's never been done in this country, and that's go after their political opponent, me, with this nonsense and just nonsense. And the big case in Florida we won, but they always pick a judge and a jury, and they use local DAs, they use the local attorney generals, like Fani, Fani, spelled F-A-N-I, Fani. And it's all a big hoax, and it's all run from there. Like in Manhattan, one of the top people from the Justice Department went in, ran Manhattan, ran the state. The Letitia James deal was run by a person from the Department of Justice, Biden. They've never done this before, and they set up a very bad precedent. It's called lawfare, warfare. It's a terrible thing, and never happened in our country. It does happen in banana republics and third world countries, but it's never happened. And the incredible thing is it actually drove my numbers up because people see, fortunately I have a platform like you, or, in all fairness, like a conversation like this, where I can talk about it and people understand that you fight for election integrity and you end up getting indicted because you're fighting for election integrity. And when the day comes when you can't fight for election integrity, you don't have a country anymore. So what happens is they went after their political opponent, me. Now, Biden, close to vegetable stage. I was yesterday on the beach, and I said, why would anybody allow him? The guy could barely walk. Why would anybody allow him? Does he have a political advisor that thinks this looks good? He thinks this looks good because it looks so bad, and it's ridiculous. I mean, and he's been doing that for a long time. He can't lift the chair. The chair weighs about 3 ounces. It's children and old people with it, and he can't lift it. The whole thing is crazy.
Well, he's clearly not, he's clearly like we just don't have a president. Right?
You don't have a president. Because she is a San Francisco liberal who destroyed San Francisco, and then as Attorney General, she destroyed California. You talk about location, and we're talking about the sun and the water and all. There's nothing better than California. She has destroyed that. She was the original DA. She was the original in San Francisco. She was the original Attorney General in California. What she has done to California is, well, you know better than I do. You just left California for a lot of those reasons. And what she's done with crime, with cashless bail, where you kill somebody. I mean, we have states there you kill somebody and they let you out right away. I mean, you don't have to even put up, and then they never find the people unless they kill again, and then they let them out again. Our country is becoming a very dangerous place, and she is a radical left San Francisco liberal, and now she's trying to protect. Now she's looking like she wants to be more Trump than Trump, if that's possible. I don't think it's possible, but she wants to be more Trump than Trump.
Yeah.
I want a wall. I
think that's.
She wants to release all the prisoners that are in detention.
Right.
That just came out today. She doesn't want to build the wall, even though the walls work. Walls and wheels. In your business, everything you do is obsolete. Almost, well, not the tunnels, but everything is obsolete. Even your rocket ships, they're like a month later, they're obsolete. You find a better way to. The only thing that's not obsolete is a wall and a wheel. And the wall, I built hundreds of miles of wall, and that's why we had such good numbers. I was going to add 200 miles.
Elon Musk and Trump?
We bought it. We could have flipped it up in 3 weeks, and they sold it for 5 cents on the dollar. That meant, I said, wow, that means people do want to have open borders. She wants to have open borders. And now she's going like she's tough on the border. It's such a lie.
Yeah, this is simply not
Yeah.
true. This is simply
No,
not
and
true.
everybody
Yeah,
knows it's
simply
not true.
true.
It's a disgrace that she
Yeah.
can say it.
No, I mean, obviously, what's happening sort of overnight is they're rewriting history and making Kamala sound like a moderate when in fact she is far left, like far left.
Worse than Bernie Sanders. She is considered
Yeah.
more liberal by far than Bernie Sanders. She's a radical left lunatic. And if she's going to be our president, very quickly, you're not going to have a country anymore. And she'll go back to all of the things that she believes in. She believes in defunding the police. She believes in no fracking, zero. You don't. Now all of a sudden she's saying, no, I really want to see fracking. If they got in, the day she got in, she'll end fracking. And by the way, if people didn't think that, the lunatics that really believe in that, they won't vote for her. You know, like the Palestinians and Israel. She is so anti-Israel, and she's bad for both. Biden actually did something that was impossible. Both sides hate him, you know, both sides. That was a hard thing to do, unification.
Yeah, no. I mean, Netanyahu came to give a talk to a joint Senate and House. The day I was there, and Kamala stood him up. You know, what does that say?
I think it's highly disrespectful. And I say, if you're a Jewish person or if you believe in Israel, if you're a person that, you know, is a very pro-Israel, if you vote for her, it's worse than Biden. And Biden was bad. But if you vote for her, you ought to have your head examined. And you see tonight, I mean, as we're doing this, I'm seeing reports coming that they expect an attack tonight or tomorrow from hundreds and maybe thousands of rockets. You know, their Iron Dome, as they call it, as we all call it, their shield that they built, that can be swamped. We'll use the term, swamped. But they swamp it by shooting enough missiles. You know this better than anybody. By shooting enough missiles, they can't defend themselves. You know, they just obliterate the whole place. And that's what some people think they're looking to do. And we have no leadership. There's no respect for the United States of America with these people. And I'm telling you, she'll be worse than him because she's a believer in being radical left, and he wasn't.
I think you're right. I mean, you really, it's important for the public that may be listening to this to look at Kamala's track record, you know, before the last month, and say, is that a track record you agree with? And I think if you're an independent moderate, you definitely would not agree with it, because it is her behavior has been far left, and we're seeing just an overnight propaganda attempt to rewrite history and make it sound like Kamala's moderate when she in fact is not moderate.
Well, her running mate approved, signed into legislation, tampons in boys' bathrooms. Okay, now that's all I have to hear. Tampons in boys' bathrooms, and that means she believes in that too. I mean, she picked this guy because he was the closest to her. A lot of people thought she'd pick sort of the opposite, but she picked an anti-Israel, radical left person. But she is far worse, they say, than Bernie Sanders. If we have her as a president, if we have a Democrat at this moment as the president, I don't think our country can survive.
I think it's a massive. I think we're in.
I literally just made that on my phone.
Frankly, with the Kamala administration, and that's my honest opinion.
Yeah, I think you mentioned that.
I think it's a massive. I think we're in.
I literally just made that on my phone.
Frankly, with the Kamala administration, and that's my honest opinion. And I think really it's essential that you win for the good of the country this election, and I mean that's understating my opinion. Now, you know, you may have seen this, but I got a letter from the EU Commission, saying, you know, to not have disinformation on during this discussion that we're having, and you know, there's a lot of attempts to do censorship and to force censorship even on Americans from other countries, and you know, what do you think about that?
Well, I know the European Union very well, they take great advantage of the United States in trade, as you know. We, through a different form, NATO, we protect them, and yet if you build a car in the United States, you can't sell it in Europe. You just can't sell it. It's impossible. The same thing with our farmers. Our farmers find it very difficult to do business. You know, we have a deficit with them of $250 billion, which people don't know. It sounds so nice, the European Union, but let me tell you, they're not as tough as China, but they're bad. And I let them know it. And that's probably why they notified you. No, they don't treat our country well. We defend them, you know, with Ukraine. So we're in for 250 billion, and they're in for about 71 billion, and they have the same size. If you add up the European nations, in terms of the economy, it's about the same size when you say as us. And they're in, and they're in much greater risk. They're right there. We have an ocean separating us from, in this case, the enemy would be Russia. It used to be for the Soviet Union, but let's assume they're close enough. And what happens is they're into 70-something million. I think even less than that, billion, and we're in for about 250 billion, and it could be a lot higher than that. And I say, why aren't you going to equalize? Why aren't they paying what we're paying? And they're in much more, you know, it's much more important for them because of the fact that, you know, they're right near there. And they were all sort of in that location. We're not. But they should, and I did it with NATO. There were only 7 countries that were paid up in NATO out of 28 at the time. And the United States was the United States was subsidizing NATO, tremendously subsidizing NATO. And I said, I went in and I said, you got to pay up. If you don't pay up, we're not going to defend you any longer. I took a lot of heat. But you know what happened? Billions and billions of dollars came flowing in. And,
I think a lot of the public isn't aware of the fact that the United States pays a disproportionate share of the NATO expenses.
And then we get taken advantage of on trade. So think about it.
Yeah, well, I mean, the point of NATO is defending Europe, and it's, you know, it's like, then, okay, well, why is the United States paying disproportionately more to defend Europe than Europe? That doesn't make sense. That's unfair. And that is an appropriate thing as well.
Well, you know, when you talk about cost cutting and savings and everything else, I mean, honestly, look, there's nobody that feels worse about the Ukraine situation than I do, because I know it would have never happened. I know Zelensky. He was very honorable to me, because when they went with the Russia hoax, and they said I had a phone call with him, he said it was a perfect phone call. It was a great phone call. He could have grandstanded and, you know, said, oh, he was very threatening. He said, no, it was a very nice phone call. I called him up to congratulate him on his win, and you end up getting impeached because these people are lunatics.
Yeah.
You know, I was talking about the difference from the people within and the enemies on the outside. In many cases, the people from within are more dangerous to our country than the Russians and the Chinas. If you have a smart president, you're not going to have a problem with them. You're going to do things.
Yeah.
Now, they've taken advantage of us
absolutely.
incredibly, but you're going to do things with the right person.
Yeah, well, I think it's obvious that you're a believer and an advocate of free speech, because during your first term as president, you were attacked relentlessly every day, often very unfairly with false attacks, and you didn't try to shut down the media. You didn't try to limit the freedom of speech, and I think that says a lot.
Well, the good thing is that you and I have, and some people, very few, we can get the word out. Although sometimes it's hard because they don't want to print it, you know, like we're having a great conversation right now. Kamala wouldn't have this conversation. She can't because she's not smart. You know, she's not a smart person, by the way. She can't have this conversation. And Biden, we don't even have to talk about it. I mean, he couldn't have this conversation. He would have given up on the first half of a question. He would have walked out. He would have said, where am I? Where am I going? So anyway, but no, he wouldn't have this.
That's true.
Not a lot of people would have this conversation, but, you know, we cover a lot of territory. But the beauty is that, you know, we can have a conversation, and I'm able to get it out without, because I get treated unfairly.
This is a really big point. You can actually have a conversation with you.
Yeah, it's nice, isn't it?
And you can't have a conversation with Biden or Kamala. It's like not, it's not possible.
That's
so this is like talking to an NPC.
No.
So it's just impossible.
Well, but think of it. We need a man or person who's unbelievably sharp in order to stop all the nuclear danger and all the dangers that I'm talking about. And I got along with all this. I got along with Kim Jong-un. We had dinner, we had everything, and he really liked me, and I got along with him really well. By the way, he's the absolute boss over there. A lot of people said, "Oh, do you think he will?"
That's for
Let
sure.
me tell you, I saw things that you don't want to know about. He is the boss. But we had a good relationship, and he doesn't like Biden. He considers him a stupid man. He said he's a stupid man. Well, at least he speaks his mind. But in this country, you're not sort of allowed to say it, but I guess you are. You should be allowed to say
Yeah.
it. It's true. But we need smart people, and we need people that have an ability to lead. And she doesn't have that ability. Can you imagine? Now, Chairman Xi very well. Can you imagine her and him negotiating, or
No, it's
even
silly. It would be
standing
silly.
together? It is, the whole concept is ridiculous. She is terrible. She's terrible. But she's getting a free ride. I saw a picture of her on Time Magazine today. She looks like the most beautiful actress ever to live. It was a drawing. And actually, she looked very much like our great First Lady, Melania. She didn't look. She didn't look like Camilla. That's right. But of course, she's a beautiful woman, so we'll leave it at that, right?
Yeah. Well, maybe I think part of what people in America want to, people in America want to feel excited and inspired about the future. They want to feel like the future is going to be better than the past, and that America is going to do things that are greater than we've done in the past, reach new heights that make you proud to be an American, and excited about the future.
They want the American dream back. They want the American dream back. More important than anything else. It's like you don't have that today because the people, they've been just sucked. They see incompetent people running our. The Biden thing is very interesting. People just found him to be incompetent, and when I debated him, I was like, "Is this for real?" It was.
Yeah, it was just absurd. But I think there are some grand projects that we could do. I mean, I think we could build a base on the moon. We could send American astronauts to Mars. We could build high-speed connections that are more advanced than anything else in the world between our cities, so people have fast transport. It's possible to solve traffic with tunnels. We've already made great progress in Vegas doing that, and and just do things that are exciting and inspiring. Feel like it's better than the past.
Well, I saw what you did in Vegas, and I'll tell you, it was amazing. I got to see. I took a big glimpse at it, and it's incredible. It's incredible, and you could do that all over. It's deep.
Yeah.
You don't even need much structure, assuming you're in the right area.
No, it's straightforward.
It's amazing.
So, I think we could do some things that like China's got incredible high-speed rail between its cities, but I think it's actually possible with tunnels if with the regulation, with an ability to actually, where it's legal to actually do the tunnels. I think you could have high-speed tunnels that are actually better than anything else in the world for high-speed transport between cities, and that would be something that Americans could say, "Wow, okay, we've got something that's cooler than anyone else in the world." That's the kind of thing that makes you proud to be an American.
And much safer than surface trains, where there's a danger there, with crazy people.
Yeah.
It's much safer, much better. And it's sad because I've seen some of the greatest trains. I find it fascinating. And I've seen the systems and how they work, and the bullet trains, they call them, I guess. And they go unbelievably fast, unbelievably comfortable, with no problems. And we don't have anything like that in this country, not even close. And it doesn't make sense that we don't. It doesn't make sense.
Yeah, and I think also there's, I'm kind of hopping on the excess regulation, but I think something that I think people can generally understand is that what happens with rules and regulations is that there's more and more of them every year, and unless there's a process to clean them up, eventually everything becomes illegal, and that actually it slows down the development of new technologies. I mean, you take sort of I think there's room for some reform at the FDA for improving the speed with which we approve drugs that could help save lives and improve people's lives.
I worked very hard on that. We got that down to the lowest number ever. and we got therapeutics approved in the FDA that people can't even believe the speed. But I took them on. I don't think they like me too much, but I got things approved in the FDA at numbers that they wouldn't believe. And it's a very bureaucratic group. Actually, it's a fine group of people in many cases. I got to know a lot of them, but I was pushing them really hard for Regeneron, for so many different things that were really, really amazing. But the FDA takes too long. It's 12 years to get a product approved. I got it down to 4, and I got some things done very quickly, but it's really something that is going to have to be worked on because it takes too long. It just takes too long.
Yeah, it just takes too long, and you end up in the same with the approval, but it takes years instead of something that can potentially take months, and that improves people's lives.
Yeah.
I think I just wanted to hop on this point that there has to be an active process for reducing rules and regulations, because otherwise they just keep building up every year. It gets like carving a lottery, and eventually everything's illegal or takes forever, and then we just ossify as a society. We can't make any progress, and that's it's a really big deal.
Elon, just getting back to the FDA for 1 second, I got something done called Right to Try. This is where you can go in, and if you're terminally ill, you can use a space-age, medicine or whatever it may be. We have the best doctors, the best labs in the world. We really do. But people would go to other countries because you couldn't use the product, even if they thought it worked, because it's going through the FDA. I got it approved where you can, you basically, look, nobody wanted, the doctors didn't want it because of the liability, the country didn't want it, our country, because they didn't want to get sued. These are people terminally ill. The insurance companies didn't want it, and the pharmaceutical companies, nobody wanted it. I got everybody into a room, and we came up with an agreement that you won't get sued. And also, they didn't want it on their record. If somebody is terminally ill and they die after taking a drug, they didn't want that on their record. So we set a separate list if somebody was, so it wouldn't count as a negative. And as you know, we got it done. We have saved Right to Try. They've been trying to get this done for 58 years, and it sounds simple, but it wasn't, because the insurance companies, nobody wanted it, but we got it done.
Sure.
Somebody signed a document that you're not going to sue the insurance companies, the country, you're not going to sue anybody. And we got it done, and we're saving tens of thousands of lives. Right to Try. You don't have to travel to Asia. People, if they had money, they go to Asia, they go to Europe. If they don't have money, they go home and die. That's what happens. They go home and die.
Well, I mean, I give you some props here. It's like if a drug is approved in Europe, which has a crazy amount of regulations, it should obviously be approved in the U.S. I mean, they get more regulations than we do. So why would a drug be approved in Europe and not in the U.S.? That's crazy.
Well, we did it. We did something that really, they've been trying to do it for 50 years, and they just couldn't get it done, and I got it done. And it's really something. But you're right. Some people go to Europe because a drug isn't approved here, but it's approved in Europe, and it's a drug that, generally speaking, would work. It's pretty crazy.
Absolutely.
You're right.
And I think so, as long as people are properly informed of the pros and cons, and like these are the risks, this is the risk, and like you make your own decision. That makes sense.
Well, I think just in sort of closing up. And by the way, I'm looking at the numbers. You got a lot of people listening. I hope you don't get nervous, because you got a lot of people listening to you right now, like 60 million or something. What is that number? It's crazy. It's amazing how you can see that right away. How many? What is the number?
Dog.
Wow.
Trump's always about the numbers, baby.
Well,
wow.
I think in terms of people,
that's bigger than you said. You said 25, and you're much more than double that number, 25 million. I think you're going to be 60 or 70, and I guess over a period of time. Hey, I congratulate you. Do I get paid for this or not?
Well, I think actually in terms of the number of people that will share this conversation over the next few days. That makes sense.
Well, I think just, in sort of closing up, and by the way, I'm looking at the numbers. You got a lot of people listening. I hope you don't get nervous, because you got a lot of people listening to you right now, like 60 million or something. What is that number? It's crazy. It's amazing how you can see that right away. How many? What is the number? Wow. What is it?
Trump's always about the numbers, baby.
Well,
Wow.
I think in
Wow,
terms of people
that's a big
that
that's bigger than you said. You said 25 and you're much more than double that number, 25 million. I think you're going to be 60 or 70. And I guess over a period of time. Hey, I congratulate you. Do I get paid for this or not?
well, I think actually the number of people that will hear this conversation over the next few days,
Right.
weeks, it's going to be 100.
That's what they say. Yeah, that's good. Well, look, it's an honor. I just asked this: are you better off now, or were you better off when I was president? Nobody's better off now. People, we put out polls on that, and nobody's better off now. Inflation has killed it, and they also feel very unsafe. You look at what's going on with a lot of different things. You look at the riots we had at the colleges over. I mean, it's ridiculous, but
Right.
all of the riots, they just feel unsafe. And now they really feel unsafe because you have a new form of crime. It's called migrant crime. I call it Biden migrant crime. Maybe I'll call it Kamala migrant crime. But
I mean, with all these things, I always try to get to the ground truth by just asking people. And my mom lives in New York, and I was like, Mom, have any of your friends, been attacked or assaulted? And she said, yeah, 3 of her friends in 3 separate incidents were assaulted just in recent months, just walking around the streets of New York. And I said, well, what happened to the people that assaulted them? Oh, nothing. They got away. Like, and they just know
they always get away.
Nothing's going. And they don't even bother reporting it because they know that they're not going to, people are not going to get prosecuted. They just let violent criminals out in New York.
The only one that gets prosecuted is Donald Trump. They prosecute Trump.
Yeah, I mean it's just obviously messed up.
It's terrible.
If violent criminals are being getting off scot-free. And meanwhile, the New York spending massive resources prosecuting you, and it's like, what, this,
Don't let them see you, okay? Just mark it.
Sort of sensible public looks at this and says, what the hell is going on here? This is obviously abuse of the legal system.
I'll go back. I can rock
The legal system is supposed to protect the public from violent criminals, and it should be obviously allowing the public to make their own decisions about who should be president, as opposed to some legal case.
Once they start this precedent, because this can go on with the next one. I mean, this is a very bad precedent what they're doing in terms of going after their political opponent, and that's all it is. It's going after their political opponent, and then you get a judge who's a strong Democrat, and I'm being nice when I say that. In many cases, crooked as hell. But you get a judge, and you go into an area where a Republican gets 3 or 4% of the vote,
next wave,
and you'll have a
count
jury
some
pool
seconds and
with
try to dismantle it.
people that
Like
hate Republicans or
like,
hate.
just after
It could
they-
also be the other way, though.
they
Because
spot
it could
and
start
they
the
start
other
to
way
push
in areas where they hate
Exactly.
Democrats, and you get into a Pandora's box. It's
Try
a
to make
very
my way out from
dangerous
F.
thing for this country, and a very dangerous thing even for the state. New York City is losing. New York
absolutely.
City and state lose a lot of business over what they did to me, because these people say we don't want that to happen to us. That's no justice system. You have an unfair system of justice, and it's costing New York State a tremendous amount of money. People are leaving and companies are leaving, and they won't come back. So all of that stuff is important, but the economy now is the big thing, and we can turn that economy up so fast, and people are going to be back again. We're going to get rid of inflation.
I think there's a lot of opportunity.
Right, absolutely.
So,
and I want to congratulate you. You've done an amazing job. You have definitely got a fertile mind. We can talk. You and I can talk about rockets.
It's kind of you to say thank you.
Tunnels. We can talk about tunnels and rockets and electric cars. So many things.
Got it.
And now you're into the AI, and that's going to be another beauty. I would say. So it's an amazing thing you've done, Eli. It's an amazing thing, and I congratulate you.
I mean, thank you. And I just say here, here's to an exciting, inspiring future that people can look forward to and be optimistic and excited about what happens next. And that's the kind of future that I think you will bring as president, and that's why I endorse you.
Well, I appreciate that. That endorsement meant a lot to me. Not all endorsements mean that much, to be honest. Your endorsement meant a lot. And we have a phrase, "Make America Great Again." It's pretty simple, but it really says we want to make America great again, and we can do it. We can do it now, but if we were going to suffer another 4 years like we've suffered for the last 4 years.
Huh? Oh yeah, so one of my like trainers, yeah, he just said like after I left, the chick stayed behind and I think like her boyfriend picked her up or something. That's it. Like we're just like talking about like what everyone was doing yesterday and yeah, just like scheduling.
I'm not sure the country can ever come back. That's how bad it is. It's so bad. We have to do a lot
I
of
think
things.
that's a very real
Yeah,
risk.
it's a big risk.
That's a very real risk.
Yeah.
And it's, I'd just like to note to people listening, like I've not been very political before, and if you look at my record, I've actually been. I'm not like, sometimes they try to paint me as like a far right guy, which is absurd because I'm like making electric vehicles and solar and batteries, helping with the environment, and I actually I supported Obama. I stood in line for 6 hours to shake Obama's hand when he was running for president, and so it's not like I'm like some sort of dyed-in-the-wool long-term Republican. I'd call myself, historically a moderate Democrat, but now I feel like we're really at a critical juncture for the country, and I think a lot of people thought the Biden administration would be a moderate administration, but it's not, and obviously that we're just going to see an even further left administration with Kamala. That's my honest opinion. I mean, her dad is literally. I mean, she was brought up as an actual. Her dad is a Marxist economist. You can Google it. I mean, it's not we're not making this up. That's how she was brought up. So, and we want to have a future that is prosperous, and I think we're just at this critical juncture, and I think this is a case of the America is going to at a fork in the road, and
true.
And I think it will take the path, like you are the path to prosperity, and I think Kamala is the opposite. Then that's my honest opinion. I'm gonna get attacked like crazy, and I've also experienced quite a bit of lawfare myself, but I'm just trying to tell people my honest opinion, and I haven't been really active in politics before, and I'm just trying to point out that my track record historically has been moderate, if not moderate, slightly left. And so this is to people out there who are in the moderate camp to say, I think you should support Donald Trump for president. And I think it's actually a very important junction in the road, and we're in deep trouble if it goes the other way.
Well, I want to thank you. And, I actually always did think of you as somewhat left. I must say that. So it's
Yeah.
even more of an honor to have your endorsement. I know how strong you feel about it. But, when you think of her, San Francisco, 15 years ago, I had a great friend, Bob Tish. He said it's the greatest city in America. And now it's almost not livable there.
Is this the
And
fucking
California
U-boat game?
likewise. And she was involved in the destruction of San Francisco and the destruction of California. And she will be involved in the destruction of our country if people are so unwise as to elect her. And I hope that doesn't happen. And I hope the elections are going to be run honestly. And we're going to turn this country around. We're going to do things and we can do it fairly quickly. And we have to get rid of the criminals that have been, given to us by other countries as they laugh. They laugh at us. They think we're stupid to accept these people. These are radical, stone-cold killers in many cases, and terrorists. And they're in our country by the hundreds of thousands.
Yeah.
And we have to take them out.
Yeah, I mean, if I could summarize it, perhaps, I think these are issues that I think most people in America would agree with, which is that we want safe and clean cities, we want secure borders, we want sensible government spending, we want to restore both the perception and reality of respect in the
Doesn't the water get into the
judicial system,
exhaust or whatever?
stop the lawfare, and I think.
10 Meter.
Even at like max depth? Oh.
Lenzpumpe einschalten.
And they hang meat from the ceiling?
Lenzpumpe ausschalten.
Oh, so this is like the kitchen area, I guess?
Kapitän?
Bitch, don't ever try to fucking correct me again, alright? Say I was right. Say I was right. Fucking bitch. Nah, it fucking matters, dog. Say it. You cunt. Damn, they got bananas hanging up there too, man. Fuck.
Kurs setzen.
Zeit für eine Auszeit. Ich bin sehr müde.
Kurs auf diese Koordinaten setzen.
Yeah, dude, keep playing this game. This game is relaxing.
Anblasen.
That's like, and how are those even right-wing positions? I think those are just that's just common sense, and that's I mean, would you agree with that?
100%. I don't understand.
I'll tell you
the
what,
whole,
man. I think I'd
they
rather
call
be
it progressive. They
fucking,
don't like the word liberal anymore, but call it
what is
liberal or
stationed
progressive.
in one of
I
these
don't
things
understand
than
how
living
somebody
my
could
life
say
right
that it's
now.
okay for them to empty prisons into our country. And again, I told you, their crime rates
definitely
all
not
over the
okay.
world are going way down, which makes sense. In fact, the next time what we'll do is if something happens with this election, which would be a horror show, we'll meet the next time in Venezuela because it'll be a far safer place to meet than our country, okay? So we'll go, you and I will go and we'll have a meeting and dinner in Venezuela because that's what's happening. Their crime rate's coming down
Do
and
they
our crime rate's
still
going through the roof.
feel
And it's
the
so simple.
waves?
And you haven't seen anything yet because these people have come into our country and they're just getting acclimated. And they don't know about being politically correct law enforcement or lack of law enforcement. And our police, I have to just end with this. We have great police. We have great law enforcement, but they're not allowed to do their job. They have to be able to do their job without being destroyed.
Well, absolutely, and it's obviously demoralizing if you're a police officer risking your life to arrest violent criminals who could kill you and do kill you sometimes, and then you arrest the violent criminal, and then the DA doesn't prosecute and they just let the guy out.
Yeah.
Well, then, like, why should a police officer risk their life to arrest a violent felon?
Well, even worse, Elon,
if nothing's going to happen.
Even worse, they prosecute the police officer. They go after it and they prosecute the police officer and they take away his pension. They take away his job. He loses his family. He loses his house.
Well, I thought it was very telling, like incredibly telling, that when that was a case of where a gang of thugs beat up police officers. I think it was in Times Square in New York, and then nothing happened to those guys. They were let out, zero bail, and I think a bunch of them were given free tickets to California. Well, what is I mean, that is a gross indignity against the United States, and that's how. I mean, this is insane. Like, have we lost all pride? How can such a thing be allowed to occur?
I've never seen anything. We see where they get shot. It's a very dangerous profession, but something they're very proud of, and they want to be able to do their job. But I've seen them get shot. I've seen a lot of things. But I've never seen where these guys are standing in the middle of a big street, everybody watching them, and they're literally boxing, like punching, stand-up fighting, a police officer. There were two of them. And yet about six of these guys, and they're punching the hell out of them. And in their own country, they would be dead if they did that. They'd be shot.
Yes.
They would be shot instantly. And, they come from these countries, and it's taking them a while to realize that we don't do that in this country. But in their own country, if they stood on a street and had a fight with a police officer, they would be shot. There's no political correctness. And it's such a sad, it's such a sad thing to see. And that's the reason you have crime, by the way, because we don't do anything about it.
Yeah, we just cannot have a situation where our police officers are beaten up on camera by a gang of illegal immigrants, and then nothing happens to the guys that beat up the cops. I mean, and they're let out. This is unacceptable.
Well, we're going to change it, and we're going to get them out of the country. You know, when I first got involved, they said you couldn't get them back to these countries. You couldn't take them back. In the case of Guatemala, Honduras, El Salvador, some others, you couldn't get them back. And I said, really? Oh, you can't get them back? Because under Obama, he couldn't get them back. They'd fly them in, and they'd put planes on the runways in these countries, so you couldn't land a plane. They'd bring them back. And the generals told me, sir, we can't bring them back. The countries won't accept MS-13 gang members. They won't accept them. And I said, really, how much do we pay these various countries in terms of economic aid, which is also somewhat ridiculous? And the answer was $750 million. I said, good. Tell them they're in default. They're delinquent. We're not paying them anymore because they won't accept it. And you know what happened? They all called me, every one of them. They said, we would be honored to take them back, sir. We would be honored. It was so easy. But it's one of those things. And we got it back. We took in so many, the MS-13 is probably the worst gangs in the world. They're the most vicious, violent. We took them out of here by the thousands and got them out of here. And their countries took them back. And because I said, you're not getting any more economic aid. And once I said that, they were nice. They wouldn't take them back for Obama. They wouldn't take them back for anybody. And now we have a problem because we have this guy, and they don't take them back anymore with Biden because they don't respect him.
Yeah. It's just gotta be done. We just can't have whether they're citizens or not citizens. We can't have, because they won't prosecute citizens either, not just illegals. So if it's, you can't have repeat violent offenders that are not that don't get incarcerated.
That's right.
Because they will obviously, by definition, continue to hurt people. And I think where part of this comes from is that there's and I do sort of consider myself liberal in some ways. I mean, it's just that you want to have empathy for people. Obviously, you want to have empathy for people. I totally agree with that. You want to have empathy, but you also have to have empathy for the victims of the criminals. And if you just have empathy for the criminals, it's actually shallow empathy. It's not real. You're not thinking. You have one layer.
That guy can go deaf,
empathy.
right? If
you got to say
like a fucking boom
if
goes
you don't
off.
Incarcerate this person, who are they going to hurt? Who are they might kill someone, they might rape someone. If you don't incarcerate them, you have to have empathy for the victims. And there's a lack of empathy for the victims of the criminals, and too much empathy for the criminals. It doesn't make sense. That's why you want to have deep empathy for society as a whole, not shallow empathy for criminals.
Right. And we have to give our police officers the dignity and the respect that they deserve. And we have to let them do their job. They can do a great job, but we have to let them do their job. And if we don't do that, it's going to all disappear. There's never been a society like this where you're allowed to do anything you want and nothing happens. And I'm talking about violent crime. And it's going to get more violent because these are really, really violent people. And we're going to get them out of our country, and we're going to get them back to where, because they were sent here by the presidents and by the various people that run those countries. And I know every one of those guys. And they're smart people, and they're streetwise people. And they really think that the USA is stupid. They think we're run by stupid people, and they happen to be right. But when I was there, we had no problem. We got them out. We took out thousands of MS-13 gang members. We brought them back. And now, again, it's the same old story. We don't do it. And they actually gave them a big increase in aid. They raised it up to billions of dollars, and they get nothing for it. So, I hope everybody's going to vote for Trump, and we're going to get this country straight. Yeah. And I didn't need this. I didn't need this. I had a very nice life. I didn't need to go through court systems and go through all the other stuff and run at the same time. I have to run. I have to go through fake trials with, in some cases, corrupt judges, totally corrupt judges. I didn't need it. I had a nice life. I have great locations. I have beautiful oceans that I have places. But I felt it was important. And if I had to do it over again, you probably think I'm crazy for doing it, actually. But if I had to do it over again, I would have done it over again, because this is so much more important than me or my life. We're going to save this country. This country is going down. And these people are bad people that we're running against, and they're liars. They make statements. They do things that are so bad. They say they're going to make a strong border. They say they've been great on the border, and they've been the worst in history. They say they're going to stop crime.
Like, the facts speak for themselves.
It's so incredible.
Speak for themselves. Like it's gotten to the point where people just don't even bother reporting crime in a lot of
That's
cities
right.
because they know nothing is going to happen. You know, that's what I hear anecdotally from people all the time. So you know, it's just you know, my values. I'm just saying to people out there, like the things I think are important for the future is like we've got to have safe cities, we've got to have secure borders, we've got to have sensible spending, and we've got to have deregulation, and so we can have a prosperous future. And then we want to have some exciting, you know, sort of moonshot projects that people can get fired up about, and you know, that's the future I'm looking for. And you know, I'm pro environment, but I'm not against. You know, I'm not like I don't think we should vilify the oil and gas industry because they're keeping civilization going right now, and but I do think we want to move, you know, at a reasonable speed towards a sustainable energy economy. Those are my values, and I think, you know, and so I mean that's why I'm supporting you for president. You know.
Well,
so.
I appreciate it. We're going to give incentive to companies to come into our country, not to leave our country. We're going to be giving tremendous incentives. We want companies to build here, not to build in other locations. And we want to create jobs. And again, it's about the American dream. You don't hear about the American dream anymore, Elon. You don't hear. You're the American dream in the truest sense, but you don't hear about the American dream anymore. And you're going to hear about it. People, they need that incentive to go out and do it. And they're going to love their lives. I mean, they're going to look forward to getting up in the morning and going to a job that they love, not a job that they can't stand, or not any job at all where they have no money, where they literally have no money, and then they end up with violence and lots of other problems. No, we're going to do some great things. And I learned a lot in the first. We had a great economy and all of that. We rebuilt the military. We did so much, but I also learned the best people. I learned the good people, the smart people, the dumb people, the people that can do things. The people, you learn. When I first came in, I tell people I was in Washington, D.C. only 17 times, according to the fake news media. I was in 17 times. I never stayed over. And you don't know people. You rely on other people to give you names, and then you realize the people you relied on weren't so good. Now, we had great people, but we also had some where I wouldn't have, used them had I known. Now I know everybody. And I think we're going to really turn things around fast. We have no choice. Otherwise, we're not going to have a country. And I really appreciate this. Has been, to me, it's been a lot of fun being with you. You're an amazing guy. You've done an incredible job and a great inspiration to people, a great inspiration. And I hope you keep going and just continue to do well. And we're going to have a big election coming up. And I think November 5th will be the most important day in the history of our country. I think that election will be the most important election. And I think it'll end up being maybe the most important day in the history of our country, because if we don't win, I just feel so sorry for everybody.
No, I think we're at a fork in the road of destiny of civilization, and I think we need to take the right path, and I think you're the right path. So I think that's what it comes down to.
Thank you very much, Elon. It's a great honor, and we'll do it again sometime. And it's been really fun, and I hope you got a lot of viewers. I hear you got a lot, but I hope you got a lot. I know you got a lot of them. So I appreciate it. I'll see you soon.
All right, sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you, Elon. Thank you very much. Bye.
And there we go. I think that is it, ladies and gentlemen. The end of a legendary conversation between Elon Musk and President Donald Trump. Wow. It was a little rocky to kind of get that thing started, but once it actually got going, it was phenomenal. And it's Trump is going to Trump's going to dominate any conversation he's in because that's who he is. He's the alpha. He's always the alpha. That's just who he is. So that was crazy. Elon, obviously, like if you go back to Elon when there was this reported conversation of or this meeting that they had, Elon said, like, me and Donald had a conversation. If you know anything about Donald, he did most of the talking, and that was like when they had their meeting at like Mar-a-Lago or whatever. That's who Trump is. But I will go back to what I said. Elon Musk buying Twitter, which is now X, will probably go down as one of the most crucial moments of all of this. What did you think of it, Jay? You're muted. You're muted. There you go.
This was pretty epic. You know, the fact that anyone could listen anywhere around the world if they're able to have X. So, and that there was millions of people turning in apparently. So that it's just something different that we've never seen before in this type of like political atmosphere. So it's very unique to see Trump first go and stream on Kick with Aiden Ross, and then now he's there on Twitter. So
it was a huge win. It's a huge win.
It's just so different,
Yeah, it was a huge win for Trump. It was a huge win for Elon Musk. It was a huge win for everybody, basically. We obviously had a great turnout tonight, and so I really do appreciate that. Jay Ritzy says Biden or Harris couldn't have a solid 15 minutes if they had that same interview. 1,000%, and that's what everybody's going to point to, and that's the whole point behind it is when Trump does this stuff. That's why he did the press conference the other day and he took all the questions from the media, because he was basically showing like, I can do this. I can do this all day. He pulled a Captain America. I can do this all day. But
I just think, when I really hope people see when they are, I mean, listen, there's one side of the coin that no matter what's going to happen, they're voting for Donald Trump. There's the other side that no matter what will happen, they will vote for Harris. I just hope the people that are, I guess, still undecided will see that he's a leader that is not afraid to like talk to anyone, be interviewed by anyone, and even try new things. The fact that the other side is, before they talk to anyone, they've got to set the stage. They got to have the questions pre-given. They have to have their rules, their way or no way, things like that, just for them to answer simple questions. It should be telling. You don't want a leader, especially the leader of America, that is scared in any way, that's scared to talk to anyone or scared to answer any questions thrown at them. Like that's you don't want that. But unfortunately, that's just who they are.
Absolutely. D-Day Cobra is 8,000 viewers, a new record for Cobra Cast. No, we actually peaked at like a little over 10 tonight just on YouTube, and we had like 2,500 on Rumble. But the record for Cobra Cast was, I think it was Trump Tucker Carlson's interview.
It was 25K. I was on that.
It was 27,000 is the record for Cobra Cast. So 27,000 still the record on the YouTube side. It was like 27.5 or something like that. It was absolutely insane. But we are closing in on a record on memberships for a stream. Eric Guidewall dropped 10 more gifted memberships as well. So yeah, we're closing in.
Somebody said they want to buy I Agree with Jay shirt. There's no way nobody would buy that. Maybe one person. No one wants to walk around with a shirt that says that.
Trump is just funny, dude. He just, the dude is funny as hell. He just makes so many comments, and this meme was perfect in terms of like the mic quality and just a couple of dudes hanging out, BSing. It was really good. We're obviously going to have to do a super chat square up. There's no way I'm going to be able to catch up to all of these. Krista Nova, we got a lot, don't we?
We definitely do.
Yeah, we got a few. So might do that. I might do that tomorrow. So basically, I have Geeks Gamers Daily, and then we have Tuesday night's main event. I might, in between Tuesday night's main event and Geeks Gamers Daily, do a super chat square up here, so we can kind of talk about the reaction to this interview, and then obviously do the super chat square up as well. Brenda with 5 gifted memberships. Thank you, Brenda. And Jesse with 5 gifted memberships as well. Holy crap. You guys have been way too supportive tonight. Trump is a true class act. Let's see. Somebody buy my boy Trump a Logitech. I agree with you, Jay.
Thank you.
Trump and Elon, a perfect example of an introvert and an extrovert. I also agree with gay.
Thank you.
He said
that'd be
gay.
wild, like if Trump wins
gay.
and he puts. I know. It'd be wild if Trump wins and he puts Elon on special financial projects.
Okay,
try to
listen.
fix the financial issues that we're having right now with government spending and everything.
I need you guys to go retweet this tweet right here. Hang on, let me find it. All right, I need you guys to go retweet. I've tweeted a lot because I was so right here. All right, because Aiden Ross was watching earlier. Okay, so I need you to retweet this because I need to get in contact with Aiden Ross, because you know what I can do? That puts me potentially in contact with Trump. The reason I'm saying that is somebody needs to be advising Trump. Trump and Elon Musk need to get a fucking Logitech webcam. I think they can work it into their budget, okay? They need to both get Logitech webcams, get an XLR mic, get on a StreamYard call, and fucking do a stream. And maybe even play some fucking video games. Do you know how many people would watch this? Seriously. Do you know how many people would watch a stream?
Maybe Barron's talking to him right now. Yeah.
They need to play Fortnite, all right?
Barron's the guy that set all that up, you know. He's got his finger on the pulse. He knows what's going on.
They need to do a gaming stream, man.
They need to do a gaming stream every time Kamala does a rally or something, you know, so more people would watch the gaming stream.
Oh man, like whoever, seriously, Trump does need, and I think his campaign's having some issues for sure, but he needs, like, there is so much that Trump could be doing right now, and connecting with people, and it would just be, whoops, there we go, it would just be phenomenal if he just absolutely just.
Greetings, I'm Shad, and this is going to be another reply video, specifically to the video from the YouTube channel Weird History, entitled Ways Medieval Armor Was More Dangerous Than Wearing Nothing. Now, if you're familiar at all with medieval history and armor, you might react with some concern, skepticism, front offense at such a title. There is an obvious kind of logic that debunks such a concept right away. And if medieval armor did not protect you more than wearing nothing, no one would have worn it. Now, it's not to say it doesn't come with certain armor difficulties, extra weight, fatigue, everything, but overall, history has proven that the benefits vastly outweigh any hindrance that the armor might provide. And we're talking about most types of medieval armor and the ones that were engineered, made, constructed to be more easily worn and so on. Now, this actually isn't the first reply video I've done to Weird History. In fact, this YouTube channel is responsible for me launching my Medieval Misconceptions playlist. The first video I did was actually a shadow response to theirs on, it was called what life was like in medieval castles. I didn't mention specifically it was that video because it's not my intention to try and attack, you know, a YouTube channel. I do admit that my interaction with this channel hasn't encouraged me to watch more of their content for how much I've noticed them getting wrong. And this video now that I'm replying to only came onto the radar because someone sent it to me saying, Shad, you might want to correct some of the stuff here. I have a philosophy that, you know, the idea that when some people get some facts really wrong on a certain subject, that they should take the video down or stop making content like that, I largely disagree with, because I find it can be a springboard for people to learn the correct information. For instance, right now, I wouldn't be making this reply video if they didn't make theirs, and I'm not sure, you know, so we're going to be able to address some interesting information that maybe I never would have gotten to, and the people who watch that video might not find their way to the correct information because it's a different audience, and so as a result, I do feel if we can respond to it, correct the information, it can still lead to a net benefit, and I encourage them to keep trying to improve, fix what they're doing. It does seem, though, that when it comes to medieval subjects, they have a bit of trouble on the matter. So we shall dive right in.
I'm going to take a look at several ways medieval armor was more dangerous than just wearing nothing.
So, in all the things that they bring up, I suspect that they're going to, this gentleman or the crew, the you know, people that work behind on this YouTube channel, I don't know how many people worked on the research or the script or anything, they might be able to bring up certain ways in which armor could be a little bit constricting, certain inherent problems, but the context that all these problems are being raised in is not that armor can create certain difficulties, it's that these difficulties were so significant that there were ways in which it was then worse than just wearing nothing at all. That's the premise it's going by the way, this subject, they're not the first ones to do this weird history. Metatron has done like a reply to some article saying that armor was worse than wearing nothing as well. So now I guess it's my turn addressing a different video, but it's one of those more, it's a misconception that actually comes up more than just once. There are, I wonder if, I don't know, weird history does seem to be a type of chat, just from what I've seen in terms of the videos I've addressed, especially the Life in Medieval Castle one. They hear like these little factoids and jump on it because that's a bit weird, and then they perpetuate it and they over-exaggerate it, like medieval people only drinking ale and they just didn't drink water, which is utterly absurd.
Well, the medieval era ain't exactly their specialty. They have a video here called What Really Happened Behind the Scenes of Pimp My Ride. Yeah, that's historical.
I wonder if this is one of the problems of when a information channel goes too broad and doesn't have the depth of research to specialize on a subject, which is why they can get so much wrong. Because there's a lot of nuance in a lot of things that I'm going to be trying to clarify in what they say in this video.
By about 1420 CE, Europeans had created the earliest full-body suits of armor. And by the 15th and 16th centuries, every European army was built with suits of armor.
1420 is the 5th century.
Oh, yeah.
He says that they had full things in 1420, and then by the 5th century...
And by the 15th and 16th centuries, every Europe...
So,
later that same time period, and then he goes on to say...
Full-body suits of armor. And by the 15th and 16th centuries, every European army was built around plate-armored soldiers.
Every European army was built around plate-armored soldiers? This is, again, about stating something so broadly that's like... No.
Even from my cursory understanding of listening to you, right? The foot soldiers, the common foot soldiers, were more likely wearing gambeson and... Steel was expensive.
It was expensive. You're right. And it's the idea that it's built around the concept of plate armor. They didn't build armies around, the plated armored individuals. They built around strategy, unit types, formations and stuff. And so the English were famous for their longbowmen and things. And so if they were going to set up a battlefield, they might build it around that strategy where the longbowmen in the center, then you need infantry to back it up. You might want cavalry to handle flanking things.
It's like saying the modern day military is based around tanks.
Which is no, it's not. But there might be certain fields of warfare that
need it.
Yeah, and that the strategy is built around the implementation of tanks. But like he says it so categorically. He said all European armies were built around plate armor. He could have said plate armor was employed to a vastly greater degree in the late 15th century and 16th century. That would be a more accurate statement, but it's poorly worded and gives the wrong idea.
The fullest sets of armor tended to be made for jousting rather than warfare.
That's not true at all either.
No, it's not.
What is this area?
It depends what they say by the more full suits of armor. Jousting armor was heavier, and they had like pretty solid frog mouth helmets and things. But they didn't cover more of the body than like a full suit of plate armor around the 15th century.
These guys have 3.5 million subscribers.
Yeah, you know that castle video? Nearly everything in that video is wrong about what was life like in a medieval castle. That has 4 million views. My shadow response, which I didn't I was like, this is a response to this channel. I'm doing it now because it's like the second time. But at least my response has 1 million views. But yeah, it can only do so much.
That was the glamour armor.
Not always. Yeah, I mean, you're on show, at a joust, but if you just had a good suit of armor that did the job effectively, and that's all you could afford, that's what you used to perpetuate that every single suit of armor that was used in jousting was glamour and stuff, and might not like. At least the armor in this scene of Game of Thrones was a decent enough suit of armor, right? So maybe I can give him a pass for using a shot of a fantasy. But honestly, some of the historical movies that they also use clips on are probably worse than Game of Thrones for accuracy in terms of equipment and depiction of a medieval setting.
This period represented the height of full-body plate armor being used in warfare. The reason we associate
Gosh. Sorry, he's got a image from the last duel with the half helmets. It's like, sorry. As a historical kind of, trying to share facts and stuff about things, it's an atrocity to show a clip of that helmet as a depiction of what armor might have looked like in historical periods.
It's like the president wearing half a bulletproof vest and showing you which half it is.
Oh, it's so bad. So it's funny how that was the very next clip that they used after I said that some of the depictions in historical, based films are worse than Game of Thrones. I never saw a helmet like that in Game of Thrones. That's all I'm saying. So dumb. Oh my goodness. It's like, we have to see the actor's face, but in a duel, they're always going to wear helmets, but we have to see the actor's face. We'll compromise in half. No, it's like one or the other. Like, as bad as wearing no helmet in going to warfare, to me, that's not as an atrocity as the half helmet thing.
The reason we associate knights with armor today has more to do with specialized jousting armor developed for tournaments in the 16th century.
What the hell? What the friggin'? What was that? I'm sorry, he's just like, we associate knights in armor more because of he's basically implying that they really wore the main covering armor in jousting and not in the battlefield, and that's why we associate knights in armor. But they wore plate armor on the battlefield a lot. Quite a lot. We have artistic evidence for it. We have archaeological evidence for it. Oh my goodness. I can't remember the exact battlefield. Maybe I'll bring it up. But we found heaps of early types of brigandines on this battle site. And, oh my goodness.
Wearing a blocky jousting suit wouldn't have made much sense in a battle.
So, yeah, like jousting armor could be significantly heavier than the plate, full plate that was worn on the battlefield. But remember what he said previously is that, let me rewind it.
The fullest sets of armor tended to be made for jousting.
He said the fullest sets of armor tended to be made for jousting. No, there were sets of armor that encased the whole body for the battlefield as well. What the misconception they're perpetuating here is that wearing a full suit of armor that covered most of the body would be too bulky and blocky to wear on the battlefield. That's the actual implication of these statements, which is utterly wrong. If they were heaviest jousting, but they're not talking, he didn't even say jousting armor was heavy. He's talking about the misconception of belief that jousting armor covered more fully the body, but no medieval battlefield armor also fully covered the body in, in many instances. Not everyone, of course. There were different levels, different combinations.
Because your movement and vision would be extremely limited.
Because your movement and vision would be extremely limited. Again, remember the context of these statements. He's not referring to weight here. They're playing on the misconception that they cover most of the body. And then he has extrapolated that to mean you wouldn't be able to move very well, and you wouldn't be able to see very well, and because of that, the battlefield sets of armor did not cover most of which is wrong. It's just utterly wrong.
Jousting suit wouldn't have made much sense in a battle, because your movement and vision would be extremely limited, but it worked fine for a skirmish against your fellow knights.
Oh, what is he trying to, interpreting what he's saying here is that full suits of armor worked fine in skirmishes, but not on actual in a battlefield. That's essentially what he's saying, which is also wrong.
But while a plate metal bodysuit would shield soldiers from many types of battlefield damage, it far from made them invincible, and created many more problems than it solved.
Okay. You're on the right way, and then you just went off rails, all right? So the first part, yeah, it didn't make you wholly invincible, that's true, but then that it could create vastly more problems than it solved is utter bullcrap. And created many more problems, just not more, many more. Like the vast majority, it just caused more problems than it solved. Then why were they wearing it?
This video creates problems.
Oh, yeah. You could roast alive from the heat. Oh boy. Oh boy.
Many of the combatants were fighting each other in the desert while wearing heavy metal suits. At this point, you may be thinking something like, hey, won't applying intense heat to a metal container just cook whatever's inside it? Good question.
Cook whatever's inside it.
At least they don't have to bring pots.
Yeah, cook whatever's inside it, so, okay.
And the answer is yes. Soldiers were literally baked inside their armor.
Herr Kaloin, feindliche Schiffe machen sich gefechtsbereit.
Keine Panik.
They said literally.
Aufgaben.
Can we just play a game called Common Sense? Let's just try and throw this out there. If I am a knight and my armor is getting so hot that it will bake me alive, what would I do? Die or take the armor off? Just throwing that out there. Clearly people would just die, yeah, obviously. No, they're taking people are not retarded.
I don't know, Shad Knights and their dress code, chivalry, and they were stylish.
Look, people got heat stroke wearing armor.
And many eventually perished from heat exhaustion.
Oh, sorry. And many yes, they perished from heat exhaustion, but he literally said they literally got baked alive. See, I use the correct form of literally when referring to what the narrator said, because that's what he literally said. Because literally means...
Literally?
Literally.
Wait, really?
Yes. Literally means literally.
They discovered ways to get around the heat. Some took their armor off entirely when it became too warm.
Some. All right. I'm glad there's some nuance being added. But all right. Will he clarify that those who were not able to take off their armor did it because they were in a situation where they didn't have the opportunity, not because they were so stupid that they was just like, just let myself die? There will be another caveat to that I'll also add. Sometimes you can suffer from dehydration and heat stroke with actually not being aware of it.
That was obviously the most effective solution, but could leave one vulnerable if fighting broke out. Others discovered that covering up armor with cloth prevented direct sunlight from heating the metal up to the cooking point. Of course, now they were wearing a heavy metal suit and a jacket in the blazing desert heat.
So that he's implying that this is compounding and would make it worse, when no, the surcoats that they wore prevented the metal from heating up to the degree it could. And so it wouldn't increase like a stacking layer, no, it'd actually keep it cooler than what it could reach.
Not exactly the time or place to layer up, or...
So he's basically saying here that it was dumb that they wore surcoats over mail. It's not the greatest place to layer up. It's like, no, this was a good thing that they did. It actively prevented the arm from heating up to the level it could. And because if this was the case, if it was more detrimental to layer like a surcoat over on top of armor in heat like this, no one would have done it. This is like a modern person saying, look at these idiots layering it up in heat, they don't know what there's... And the ends are there. It's like, he's basically implying that they were stupid for layering it up because it's in hot air. It's like,
I'd take my chances with heat stroke rather than, I don't know, an axe to the head.
Yeah, I'm in the middle of that, but there's a big difference between heat stroke and being baked alive.
Yeah.
Look, is this just like casual use of language? But he said literally, that's where I'm... Maybe he didn't say literally, I could have let him slide as just being hyperbolic.
But he's got his terminology wrong too.
You could get stabbed in between the plates. Therefore, it was pointless wearing it.
In its heyday, plated armor made a soldier about as close to invincible as they could ever get.
Then read the title of the video.
Yeah, I know. That's not, how could he say that statement with the very premise of this video? But in many ways, it was more dangerous than wearing nothing. Near invincible. Ways worse than wearing nothing. Okay.
Invincible as they could ever get. Sword slashes did absolutely nothing to it.
Yeah, in most cases. If you had a heavy enough sword, right, and you got a really solid hit to the head, there is a level of blunt force